Hi, and welcome back to Unpacking Trauma. Today, we are wading into some deep and murky waters. We're looking at a tragic feedback loop, how a parent's own desperate need to shift blame can create the very trauma that forces their child into a lifetime of deception. It's a look at two sides of the same terrible coin, the psychology of the parent who rejects and the child who learns to lie to survive. Our case study, once again, comes from our colleague Mo over in South Africa. Mo, why don't you set the stage for us?
Thanks, T. This case involves a woman in her mid-20s we'll call Rose. Rose's life is in constant turmoil because she lies habitually, almost as a reflex. The core issue we're examining is the origin of this. The brief facts are these. Rose grew up in a dysfunctional home. There is much more. But for this discussion, let's just focus on the following. Both parents themselves had unresolved trauma. Rose's mother was a liar and deceiver, her father was an alcoholic, and her mother had an affair, leading to a divorce when Rose was 8. The mother then married the affair partner. Rose, in an act of loyalty to her father, refused to call this new man Dad. In direct response, her mother sent her away to be raised by her grandmother. The critical, devastating fact is that the mother knew the grandfather had already tried to molest Rose a year prior. It's a profound betrayal. As Rose herself often says, lying to survive is all I know how to do.
That just takes your breath away. Lying to survive is all I know how to do. Tara, this is such a tangled web. Let's start with the mother. From your perspective, what is happening inside this woman that allows her to make such a devastating choice?
Thank you, T. To understand the mother, we must first understand the immense power of shame. In her world, she's facing multiple failures, isn't it? A failed marriage, an affair. In many cultures, this brings a deep sense of social shame. Shame, by the way, lies at the core of many trauma responses. The mother is desperate to create a new, perfect picture with her new husband. This daughter, Rose, with her raw, inconvenient truth, shatters that picture. She becomes the focus of the blame because it is too painful for the mother to look at her own role in the chaos. By labeling the child as the problem, the mother attempts to cleanse her own shame. It is a desperate, selfish act to preserve her own fragile sense of honor, her izzat, at the complete expense of her child.
So she makes the child the villain in a story where she can't bear to be the villain herself. Scott, Tara talks about this need to create a perfect picture. Psychologically, what's the mechanism at play here? How does a mother's mind even begin to justify an act like that?
It's a textbook case of profound cognitive dissonance, T. It's a brutal bit of mental gymnastics. A mother's core self-concept is almost always, I am a good protector. But her actions, choosing a new partner over her child and knowingly sending her into danger, are in violent opposition to that belief. Now, the mind can't hold those two realities at once. It'll tear itself apart. So it has to change one. Since she won't change her actions, she has to warp the reality of them. This is where blame shifting becomes an essential defense mechanism. She projects all the badness onto the wee girl. Rose isn't a loyal child. She's defiant. She's not a victim. She's difficult. By doing this, the mother resolves her dissonance. It allows her to live with her choice and maintain the fiction that she is a good person who was forced into a hard decision by a problem child. It's a profound act of psychological self-preservation.
So the mother is essentially trapped in her own loop of self-deception. Mo, let's pivot this to Rose. How does this intense blame shifting from her mother plant the seeds for Rose's own lifetime of deception?
It's the other side of that coin. Rose experiences her mother's cognitive dissonance as a terrifying, life-altering reality. She learns the most dangerous lesson a child can learn. Truth gets you blamed, and blame gets you abandoned. Her mother's need for a convenient story teaches Rose that her authentic self is an inconvenience. She sees, with perfect clarity, that her one moment of honesty, of standing up for her own reality, cost her everything. That's why she says, lying is all I know. Because in her life, telling the truth led directly to the worst possible outcome. It's not a choice for her. It's a law of physics she learned at age 8.
And it poisons the very concept of love, isn't it? The lesson becomes that love is entirely conditional. It is not something you receive for who you are, but something you must earn by being easy, agreeable, and never, ever exposing an uncomfortable truth. She learns to perform for safety, to never show or be her real self, and lying is the main part of the script.
Aye, and that is the genesis of her complex PTSD. A single acute trauma can be devastating, but this is different. This is a foundational betrayal by the primary caregiver as a direct consequence of the child's own integrity. That wires the brain for a specific kind of hypervigilance. It creates a belief that the world is fundamentally unsafe and people are untrustworthy. Her lying now is a preemptive strike. She lies before she can even be put in a position where her truth might be judged, because she can't survive that judgment again.
And that's the ultimate betrayal that locked it all in. It's the brutal irony. The one thing she is terrified of, rejection, was brought upon her by her one act of truth. And the place she was sent? It wasn't just a rejection from a home, it was a sentencing to a place of danger. The message was final. Your truth will not only get you abandoned, it will get you hurt. Your safety does not matter.
It's a cycle of pain feeding on itself. As we wrap up, I'd love a final thought from each of you, and no like and subscribe comments, please. Tara?
The mother, in a desperate attempt to save her own face, effectively destroyed her child's ability to ever show her own. Rose now hides her true self because her mother taught her it was something to be ashamed of. It is a spiritual wound of the highest order. Shame is viewed by some as the core issue of complex trauma, and I agree. This terrible tale shows how it leads to one trait of CPTSD, lying as a dysfunctional trauma response.
What we have here is a perfect tragic storm. A parent's unresolved psychological damage and powerful defense mechanisms directly creating a profound, lifelong trauma response in her child. The mother's blame shifting was the cause. The daughter's lying is the effect. It's a clinical cause and effect tragedy. Mind you, even if the mother changes towards the child later, it is almost certainly too late. The betrayal has cemented the child's operating system, seared it into her soul.
Rose doesn't lie because she's a bad person or because she's morally weak. She lies because her mother's blame taught her the most brutal lesson there is, that the raw, unedited truth of who you are is not only unlovable, it is punishable. Her lies are the scar tissue that formed over that wound.
Thanks for tuning in. Check out some related links in the description. Bye now.